Welcome to another edition of the Will Be Blood Fight Show. I'm your host, Dave Duenas. Okay guys, I'm going to give you my prediction about the Bernard Hopkins fight versus Kelly Pavlik. Really, this was a kind of a fight that you had to really sit back and really think about. And me being a big Bernard Hopkins fan, I had to really sit down and just kind of weigh out the pros and cons about him facing Kelly Pavlik, okay? You know, Bernard is probably one of the most unique fighters of our era right now. This is a guy that really has outlasted a lot of his competition and has been able to rejuvenate himself time and time and again, you know. But what the question really boils down to is, being the age that he is, which is what, 43 or 44, whatever, right? How much more wear and tear can his body accept, and how much more can he endure where he can keep walking in the ring and, you know, look at least very competitive against guys that are in their prime, right? I mean, how you really got to break it down is, your body is not a machine, you know, so the older you get, the more difficult it is to recoup, you know, the more soreness that you have, you know, in your body. Your joints ache a lot more than a young 26-year-old kid would, right? So his last outing with Joe Calzaghe, I really watched it over and over, and I watched other bouts, him fighting Jermaine Taylor, fighting Winky Wright, you know, and really, when I'm watching these fights, I noticed the people that have really defeated Bernard Hopkins are fighters that have speed, fighters that put a lot of output out, right? They put output in punches. Guys really that are kind of difficult in their own little ways of getting hit themselves, even though Joe Calzaghe was dropped in the first round, but he still was very active where it kept, you know, Bernard always at bay. So fighters that have been a little bit slower is where Bernard has been more successful at. But it still raises the question is, you know, he's been able to outrun Father Time, but how much more, how much longer can he finally keep outrunning them and leaving them in the back, you know, in the dust? Even though Kelly Pavlik does not have the speed of a Calzaghe or Jermaine Taylor, this is a guy that carries a very heavy punch. At 170, we don't know how much of a magnitude of a punch he does carry, but this is a guy that can really cause damage. But also, too, where Kelly has never really faced a crafty wizard like Bernard Hopkins. Is going to raise questions also, too. I mean, being at 170 is more or less the domain of Bernard Hopkins now, you know, so especially having his last 3 outings in the 170 division, you know, so, you know, this is a big pick for me where you're going to have to, I had to pick with my brain rather than with my heart, okay, and I'm going to go against my heart on this one, which would be, my choice would be Bernard Hopkins if I was betting with my heart. But every good gambler knows you don't bet with your heart, you bet with the statistics, you bet what is in front of you, you bet with the more realistic outcome that's going to happen. And that being said, I'm going to go with Kelly Pavlik. So I'm going to bet with the more obvious, which is the younger, stronger guy, really just outpointing him, but having a real difficult time in defeating an old Bernard Hopkins, okay? Him knocking out Bernard, I don't see that happening because of the fact that Bernard has fought other big punchers and they have not been successful in hurting or knocking out Bernard, you know? This is a really tough iron jaw, iron grid fighter, you know. This is somebody that it's very difficult to bend, you know, and break. I don't see that happening. But I do see him just putting out a much more punch output than Bernard, and the pace of the fight is going to kind of lean towards Pavlik. So I'm going to go with the unanimous decision with Kelly Pavlik. I'm going to say that it's going to be an ugly fight. I'm going to have to say that Bernard's going to give it his best effort, but time in the later rounds are just going to end up, arising again and just really start pouring the sand all over the poor guy, where you're going to notice that this is a 43-year-old man still playing in a very young man's sport. About Cristian Mijares versus Vic Darchinyan. What is the outcome of that fight? Who do I think is going to win? What's my prediction? The whole works, okay? Well, first off, I think it's a bad pick for Vic Darchinyan to move up and face a pound-for-pound fighter like Cristian Mijares, who really has made his career in making pressure fighters look pretty much ordinary and silly when it comes to facing him. He did it against Alex Munoz. He did it against Arce, Jorge Arce. And I really think he's going to really just do the same thing to Vic. Vic having difficulties with Nonito Dornier out of San Leandro, California, in the Bay Area. And really, Nonito Dornier has a punch. Lefty with a good punch. And caught him and dropped him. And when he arose from that knockout, he was like, I didn't get knocked out. Why did you even stop the fight? The Armenian fighter is a very will-minded fighter, which pretty much all Armenian fighters are, or any Middle Eastern fighter are. They're very strong-willed in the mind and very tough fighters. These are guys that go in with the mind frame of I'm going to beat you regardless of what you think, or you didn't defeat me. So those are the characteristics that I like about Vic Darchinyan, being a big puncher, a lefty, a guy that comes in looking for the knockout every time, but boxing skill-wise, it's just not there for him. I think maybe it's really kind of late in the game already in his career to try to really brush up, but there is some brushing up that you can do. He keeps his hands low. The bad thing about it is he always cocks his gun before, releasing it, so it's always loaded. He jackknifes his punches and stuff, which is he holds it out here. Those are just little things that Mijares is going to be able to pick up on, him being a pure boxer in this bout, okay? This is a very slick fighter, okay? I think I don't think he's going to break Vic Darchinyan's spirit in giving up in the fight. I think he's going to keep going through all the rounds. I think Vic is, this is a guy that has the puncher mentality, so he has a puncher chance of stopping Mijares, but that's about the only chance he has. Him outboxing him, outworking him, I don't think that's going to happen. He's coming up and meeting a guy that's a little bit bigger, a lot more craftier, obviously, and a hell of a counterpuncher, okay? So Cristian is not going to allow him to really get any shots in and never going to really be there in front of him, so when he sets to throw those, lunging punches that he likes to throw. So I really see him just clearly just outboxing him to a unanimous decision, and you're going to hear Vic Darchinyan say, I didn't lose this fight, he ran, and then he's just going to have to move on to there. And then Cristian Mijares is just going to have to wait for Fernando Montel, which is the dream match that fight fans and myself have been waiting for. That's the match that we really want to see. Hopefully that materializes for 2009, and we see what happens from there. Now, Vic Darchinyan, if he loses his bout, hey, there's still a lot of other fights out there for him to face. He still has, Jorge Arce, Travieso. Go after him. That's a great fight. That there actually is a fight that he has a much better chance of winning. Because of the fact that, Travieso is there to fight. He's not there to move and outclass you. He's going to be going straight forward, and that's more in a fighting style to Darchinyan. But I give him his kudos to move up and face one of the more pure boxers and really the more, classy fighters in the ring that has great ring generalship for being in the lighter divisions, okay? So, like I said, unanimous decision for Cristian Mijares. I just don't think right now he is, not even right now, I know that he's not in the league of Mijares, unfortunately. I want to run down really quick, liverpuncher.com. If you haven't checked out this website, go to it, please. It's a really good website. If you like you know, Max Boxing, or you like Fight Hype, or you like Eastside Boxing, you're definitely going to like liverpuncher.com. It has fight forums, fight predictions, fantasy boxing, boxing news. You can interact with other members. You can post videos. You know, there's videos there to watch. There's just a whole variety of stuff in this boxing website. It's a peer-to-peer boxing website. If you are a hardcore boxing fan like myself and like a lot of other you know, subscribers to this show, trust me, you're gonna enjoy it, okay? And if you do log in there and look for me. I'm in there, 97 Rough, There Will Be Blood Fight Show. Stop by and say what's up and let me know that you've logged on to the website. Once again, it's liverpuncher.com.